Week 14. Yes, folks, the wanderer made it from Rome to Tel Aviv, Israel. And as you can see behind me, metropolitan city of Rome to Tel Aviv, Yafo, almost 7 hours in the air. And as I explained last week, it was rough. We didn't leave till 2 in the morning, and we got in early the next day. And of course, that's very disorienting. It's like a double all-nighter. And as you could see, Tel Aviv is on the far east of the Mediterranean Sea. And it's kind of parallel, if you will, to Beirut, which is up in Lebanon, but they're the two big cities on the far east side of the Mediterranean Sea. And it's part of a new city called Tel Aviv, an old city called Yafo, which is behind me here. And I'm going to read a little bit from my journal. Tuesday, January 12, 1971, Tel Aviv, Israel, Asia. I spent yesterday in a park in front of a youth hostel. It just turned cold here. In the hostel, I heard nothing but bitching about working for money in kibbutzes. Well, screw it. I'm going to kill some time. But I ain't working here. I'm going to send for $200. $100 of my money and $100 from my brother Alvin that he offered me. I just don't see any reason to bust my ass here for such a small upside. I can make a lot more money in the States. Maybe I'll work in Germany in the spring. So as you can see, Wander is up in the air about what he's doing. He's really not so sure about getting this kibbutz, but he made a decision from Rome that he's not going home. So it was Israel, and the kibbutz was in his mind. And arriving in Tel Aviv is another case of culture shock. I had been in North Africa with the Arabic population and the French and the Berbers, and Italy was, of course, the Italian food and the very intense culture of the Italians. And now you get in a plane, and 6-7 hours later, boom, you get off the plane, and it's in Hebrew. Now, I've got some background in this stuff because I was trained in this a little bit, but I couldn't speak modern Hebrew. And it was extremely foreign. It was more foreign in many ways than the Arabic stuff that I'd kind of gotten used to in North Africa. But it was culture shock to be in a place where there were Jews and they spoke a language that was Hebrew, and it was a whole different world. Again, writing in my journal. In Tel Aviv, I'm given an assignment to a kibbutz called Ayelet HaShachar. I met an American named Jim Camper at the kibbutz office, and we got the same assignment at this same kibbutz. But we had some time together in Tel Aviv. So me and Jim, we leave the office together. We had some tea. I tried to find out about my knife that I left at the airport with LL Airlines. They don't have it. They know nothing. Jim and I go to American Express for him. I had been there earlier in the day with another fellow and got some letters. We met some freaks there. So a big part of traveling in those days as a hippie type was to be involved with this crew of people who were traveling all over the place. And in the kibbutz, in the hostel, you really run into some people. In the kibbutz too, because that's where the volunteers go. We'll talk about that later. But first, let's focus on the hostel. And again, from my journal, I took a hot shower today. It was fine. My hair is coming back. This is a big deal to me because I had a cut in Morocco. There's no sun here, but it's not cold. It kills me that all these traveler guys want to get out of Israel so bad. I'm just getting there. There are some English guys in the hostel who are so loud. They're just incredible. They're good friends, and they just keep on like they're screaming almost. That's another example of getting involved with the culture of people from all over the world. The next day, we jump on a bus like the one behind me to get here to the kibbutz. And I'm beginning to get vibes from this place. They seem decent here. We get a pretty shitty lunch. Remember, I was a very picky eater in those days. And the food was kind of like cafeteria food, which I never did that well with anyway. But it was, it was a good, wholesome food, and there was lots of it, and we ate in this big dining hall. Going into my diary again, my journal, and a nice old lady helped us out. Her name was Nina. Nina had been kibbutzing for 40 years and really had seen the situation change dramatically, as she profoundly and proudly proclaimed to us. Jim and I are placed in a room with a third American. We blow some dope, so I'm wailing stoned as I write in my journal. The birds chirp here, and it's like camp. It's really beautiful, green and rolling. You can see it behind me. It's like a camp. It's a beautiful place. Traveling by bus and moving about had made me quite tired. I'm hungry. It's going to be hard for me to satisfy my insane hunger. While you're on the road, you really don't get regular meals. But soon, I'll get used to getting regular meals. I hope it's going to be great to be able to make myself at home again. I think I'll be getting all kinds of things for my work. In coupons like money, they call it script at the company store. You can buy soap, shampoos, candy, etc. Plus, they give us clothes and boots to wear while we're working. It's a matter of getting accustomed to a place like this. You have to understand there's about 500, 600 people who are what we call the kibbutzniks. They live here, they're residents, they own this place together. It is a commune in a sense. It's not religious. There's no obvious signs of it being Jewish, really, except for the people all happen to be Jews, but they're not wearing the Orthodox costume. They really don't have a religious background or a religious basis, I guess. But I would like to read additionally from my journal again, okay? And this is what I was saying earlier. They gave me boots today and clothes and a coat. It's weird. I have to tell you, I still was wearing my jalaba from Morocco, but I wear it around at night. But at least they gave me a coat to wear while I worked. Plus tea, sugar, and cookies. These things are really abundant. Some not so nice or new, but decent things. It's incredible. I feel like I'm in Pepperland. That's a reference to the famous Beatles movie, Yellow Submarine. Incidentally, you'll see later on I do have I've come up against the Beatles. The meals are really large, and a baker makes great fresh bread behind the kitchen. Well, I'm a simple eater, and as a kid, even today, I just love bread. And that was really a cool thing to have fresh bread, all I wanted, and security of a big kitchen with plenty of food. The first thing they do when you go to work at the kibbutz is they make you do the dirty work. And that means you're in the kitchen. The kitchen, to me, is a stinky place, a big kitchen. Now, I had worked in a restaurant back home. It was a delicatessen, and I had worked in the gritty, nitty places of dirty, kind of stinky food and stuff like that. So I knew about it. But, to go back in this huge place that's serving 500 people every meal, and they got me doing the big dish. Now, what's the big dish? Huge metal cooking dishes. These are like 2 feet wide, 3 feet long. And let me tell you something, cleaning those things, they had muck on them. It was like trying to move things off of a grid of an old grill. I mean, it was just caked on there. Now, that was kind of sickening, but, it's part of being in a cafeteria type model. And they had me cutting the necks off of chickens and doing all kinds of things that to me were pretty distasteful. But it was only 5-6 hours a day. And when I got out of there, I had plenty of time to hang out, mostly with the people who were volunteers, because they stuck all the volunteers together in these rows of dormitory rooms. One story, and I was there with Jim and this other fellow, and everybody was all over in this one area of the campus. There's an old expression in real estate. I'm telling you, it applies to travel too. Location, location, location. So look at this place. There's where the folks are all living. There's farms and farm fields and grapefruit orchards and chicken houses and all kinds of industry. And also there is a guest house. One of the industries of Ayelet HaShachar was they had a guest house where they put up travelers and things. So let's look at this though. We're on the upper Galilee. The Galilee is a sea, they call it, but it's really more like a lake. See, we're north of the Sea of Galilee. And then there's Mount Hermon, and that is something you can see off in the distance all the time when it's clear. And it is an area not far from the Lebanese border, Lebanon, and there were issues with guerrillas coming in and things you had to be wary of. In Israel, it seems to be a permanent security issue. One of the great things about near to the Lebanese border is that the hashish, the famous light brown, darker brown, honey brown hashish comes across that border. My journal reflects as follows. I got stoned, took a fantastic hot shower, and washed my hair with shampoo purchased with my coupons at the Kibbutz store. I'm just stunned by this place. But it's up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Sometimes I feel bad about taking so much, but I'm working. Also, there was a lot of social things for the volunteers. And I reference again in the journal. There was a club tonight with hot cocoa and cookies, plus magazines to read. Very decent. Good night. I do dig it on many levels. So you're here with Italians and people from Norway, Northern Europe, all over Europe, some from South America, and a lot from the United States, particularly Jews from the United States. As you'll see, we'll meet some of them as we go along. Let's go to Tuesday, January 19, 1971, at the Kibbutz. I've been here almost a week, and it's a strange place. The work has been easy, but sometimes a drag, boring. I saw the play musical Hair at the guest house, the motel here on the Kibbutz last night for free. It was strange seeing Hair here with Israelis and American tourists in the very strange and foreign to me Hebrew language. Now, folks, I had seen Hair in the States, and it was a big cultural thing and very well known to me and to the culture in the United States. The Israelis did not seem to dig the play. It's pretty radical with nudity if you haven't seen it. Frankly, I didn't really dig the play either, but it was a trip, an experience, and it was a heavy one. One kibbutznik hassled me about my dress, but he was nice. Then he got me a wool sport coat to put on. Hilarious. And when they sang the song Aquarius, which I happen to really like, they sang Aquarius, Aquarius. And that was the Israeli take, because really the play was in Hebrew. One of the cool things about being on the kibbutz is they gave you time off a couple of days a week, and you could take a day off basically when you wanted to. So here I was at Ayelet, and I go, wow, there's some cool places. And I already had an interest for mysticism. And there was a famous known city called Sfat. Sfat was very close, and you could see it. And it was kind of a garden city, and it was pretty easy for me to get there. You could see Chatzor right across from the kibbutz. That's a tell, a place where you can dig and go down and see where the water came. But I went to Sfat, and Sfat was supposed to be, this is where you're going to get all the mysticism and the wonderful experiences of being ending up with the mystics up in this hill town. So reading from my journal, I went to the city of Sfat, known as a mystical city, on Sunday by myself, hitchhiked. I was on a search mission. Sfat is way up in the hills, and the view of the Sea of Galilee is fantastic. Mysticism, the Zohar, and the Kabbalah are reputed to be here, but I find no hint of it in my searching. The Sea of Galilee is really a lake, not so large either. It's also known as Lake Kinneret. Now you got to understand, I'm from Michigan and we got the Great Lakes and these are oceans of fresh water. So it was a little disappointing to see that the Sea of Galilee was just a little lake. The city of Savat was not much, very green and not very commercial, though it is known as a very spiritual center. Yeah, I get up there and I wander around. I don't know what I was looking for or who I was going to find. I didn't knock on doors. I didn't know what to do. But it was great to go, and it was kind of an interesting place. And of course, it was one of these kind of, okay, you can put it on your bucket list and say you've been to Svat. And finishing week 14, it was a very wonderful, basically almost a whole week on the kibbutz after leaving Tel Aviv. And I say on the 20th of January, from the kibbutz, this place is beautiful. Sunshine, blue skies, green fields, sat by a flowing ravine on the edge of the kibbutz, toked and grooved. Screw me. Wow. Preview for week 15. It's a full week on the kibbutz. I hope you'll join us and see as our little wanderer, Stevie Wander, keeps on grooving with the times and going along and working and kind of putting along, because this is a time, again, of relaxation to some degree, of resting for being on the road for so long. It was a respite. And look at the lovely place we're at. And you'll see that there are more adventures on the kibbutz, but it's a week standing still.
It's 7 in the morning local time in Israel. I hitch a ride from the airport to the outskirts of Tel Aviv, where I locate a youth hostel for the night. It's raining everywhere I go. I can't escape the cold, wintry, rainy weather. It feels great to have such cheap accommodations available. Sometimes I take these hostels for granted, when in fact the entire hostelry system has been and continues to be a game-changing lifesaver for me. I wouldn't be on this wandering journey without them. A long, hot shower feels so great. My red mop of corkscrews are going back in abundance on my head. I feel so refreshed, ready to kibbutz. A new day dawns to bring its unexpected possibilities to man.